Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next conversation for Diana and I, connecting legacy infrastructure when migrating to teams. My name is Scott Rindell. I'm a partner technical architect with the Microsoft division called GPS, Global Partner Services. We just changed our name from one commercial partner, so I'm still trying to learn that. I'm a partner technical architect. My job is to work with partners to get over technical blockers and help them build new stuff to sell to our customers. So thanks for having me today. Diana?
And I'm Diana Flora, Technical Solutions Director with PureIP. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So today we want to talk about legacy infrastructure with teams. As we get into this go back to work or hybrid, whatever that's going to look like, we're going to start using some of those old pieces of equipment that we had in the office that we had this huge investment in when we were all in the office. So what we'd like to do is kind of set a scene for you for today's conversation. So when we think about this kind of stuff, it's the fact that we all had to drive, well, not we as in Microsoft and maybe not so much PureIP, but you guys as our customers had to drive to the cloud a lot faster. You had to adopt a lot faster than I think what anybody ever expected. And that brought on a lot of challenges. And now that things are kind of settling down, we're starting to see an uptake in the amount of telephony that's being used and the request for legacy devices in telephony. So we kind of want to set up what we think is a scene that's going to cover most applications or most customers, and then talk towards that today. So let's think about this. We had that increase in remote work. We sent people home. There was a phone system there at one point. You might have sent people home with a soft phone client or maybe an IP phone connected to your IP PBX, some way for them to continue to use the phone and collaborate with internal employees, external customers, vendors, etc. So now these folks have had to learn how to do all this from home. But now that we're starting to see things open up and get back to work, what is that going to look like? How are we going to fit all this in? Well, because we're going back to work, we've got to figure out what to do with this legacy equipment. So we want to support the different types of locations that are going to be utilized again, or may have been utilized all along, but now that you're making your investment, or maybe your PBX is coming end of life, or is no longer something that you want to renew, anything like that, excuse me, you'll have these different locations that you're going to want to deal with. So things like, I don't know, Diana, an office maybe?
Your office and all the infrastructure that you have in your office that you may or may not still have people there, like alarm systems, door entry systems, fax machines, all that infrastructure that you still own in that office. What about if you have factories or warehouses? They require a completely different type of telephony equipment, overhead paging systems, or analog devices, long runs for cables where you cannot reach with wireless or anything else, or DECT systems that you might need for those locations. We have some customers that have retail, that are in retail business, where they have different multiple tens or hundreds of stores across the country or multiple countries, where they still require some legacy equipment or analog equipment like door entry systems or alarms, or maybe even some legacy credit card machines, although those are not really existing anymore in many locations.
Yeah, so with the support of this, obviously there was maybe a telecom person and an IT person, and they might have worked closely together, but it's entirely possible that with this move away from the office, maybe some staff was let go or asked to pick up new responsibilities. And so what we're seeing, at least what I've seen kind of it both ways. I've seen where the telephone guys were, or gals, pardon me, telephone personnel were asked to pick up some IT responsibilities, and I've seen it the other way around, where IT folks were then asked to pick up telecom responsibilities. So, it was a case of where, we're going to challenge the employee or the customer in this case to pick up additional workloads or additional skilling. What do you think?
I agree. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. Voice skills are always needed everywhere. And that means for the IT personnel out there that they need to do new certifications and learn a bit more, which is always a good thing, right?
Absolutely. And I know Microsoft is coming out with some certifications for specifically for managing telecom and telephony environments. And I think that's great because it adds some credence to the fact that, hey, we are taking telecom seriously, and therefore, we want to be able to let people get these types of credentials, put them on their resume, and say, hey, yeah, I'm serious about telecom, so much so that I have the certification. So I think that's amazing. And with these consolidation of services, it really comes down to, do we want to farm it out? Do we want to bring in a consultant to do this? Let them do it remotely? Who's gonna own it? Maybe for smaller businesses that don't have that on-premise requirement anymore, maybe they do want to farm stuff out. What do you think about that?
Definitely. They can, and there are companies out there like PRP, for example, or other companies that do offer a managed service where you help customers with solutions, designing the solution, doing all this remotely, or helping them figure out what is the best solution in this case. And every single company is different. Every requirement is different. It's important to have somebody to help you understand what the requirements are and what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot keep. Many customers will want to reuse the existing equipment and reuse the investment they already have made. Is that feasible? Is that possible? Can definitely somebody in PRP or somebody in Microsoft can definitely help and advise how to do that.
Sure. So let's take this scene that we've kind of set up and let's see what it looks like visually. So as we build this out, what does our current situation look like? Well, of course, there might be an office or a factory, shop, campus, store, something like that. And of course, home. We've all worked from home. Recently I traveled to a city, and I won't tell you which city, but I was amazed the fact that there were no people downtown. Mm-hmm. I was like, where is everybody? It was a little like something out of a movie. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, of course, everybody's working from home. So, this whole remote working thing still is pretty big, but I'm looking forward to it. And Diana, I think you are too, looking forward to getting back to the office as well. So let's continue to build this out. So, of course, we've got the focus of our conversation today, which is that phone system, typically going to be, in today's day and age, an IP or a hybrid type phone system. And with that, of course, are the clients, whether they're hard clients or soft clients. And then when we first built this out, I went, Tannoy, what is Tannoy? So turns out, Diana, Tannoy is
British manufacturer for overhead paging, yes.
But it kind of is an analogy. It's kind of like Kleenex for overhead paging, right? So it's if you Tannoy, oh, it's loudspeaker paging. Okay, I had never heard that before. But definitely, to cover those warehouses or office space where you need to get a message out. Door entry systems, boy, when I was working PBXs, the door box was a huge deal, and the door box controller, right? The ability to remotely open a door needs to be somehow interfaced through the phone system, right? Because that's what that door box did. You push the button, it rang an extension. Hello, hey, I'm at the front door, let me in. It was dial a code, which then, struck a latch that allowed the door to be open. And this all was handled through the phone system.
And it still is in many, many cases.
In many, many cases. And now, of course, we have things like the video door entry system that also can tie in, a lot of different things that can come into play here. And as we build this out, when I first saw the DEC/digital cordless appear in our build out here, I thought to myself, well, wouldn't that fall under client? And I thought it would, but yet there are many cases where a third party DEC digital/SIP IP wireless phone would connect for a bigger range of space, right? For that warehouse to be able to walk out onto the plant floor or something like that. And so this definitely is something that customers are going to say, but hey, how does Teams help me with this as well? So I'm really glad that we had to that we had that in there.
Yes.
And as we continue to move on, video conferencing units. Boy, do I remember these being connected to a phone system. I had a customer who had theirs set up through ISDN lines. I don't know if you remember ISDN lines, but that was handled through the phone system, and probably still is in some cases. So just these are the types of things that we're seeing out in the field that customers have come to us and say, hey, how do help us solve for this? Voice application server. I know for me, I when I hear that, I think of an auto dialer. What about you?
Contact center, call recording, okay. Maybe?
Yep, call recording. I hadn't considered that. Call recording, contact center, maybe an external auto attendant or IVR, right? These are the kinds of application servers that we might want to keep. And I know in Teams anyway, we have some solutions that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And then, of course, the one question I get all the time, does Teams support faxing? Well,
every single conversation with every single customer, there has to be a mention of fax. I can't even believe
faxing still exists, right? It's unbelievable. It's like, okay, oh, you know what? I'm glad they're there. But let's not forget, when we deal with faxing, we've got our old friends, these old analog phones, of which you and I are very familiar with. For those, like you had said, those long line needs to have a communication device, so a telephone on the wall. So this kind of sets up, I hope, covers just about everybody. Obviously, I'm probably missing something here that I hadn't thought of, but it's interesting that we considered all of these things. Now, with that, and the fact that we want to move to Teams, what parts of this scene does Teams cover? Well, let's take a look. Well, of course, there's the PBX, right? That's the Microsoft phone system license that has all the features and functionality of your standard PBX. Then, of course, we have the clients. Interestingly enough, we have soft clients, which actually is the Teams client, but we also have IP phone vendors that work directly with Teams, or Teams phones, as we call them. From a voice application standpoint, native to Teams, we do have the auto attendant and call queue, which can act like a basic contact center, certainly not a fully robust one, but you can do things like use DTMF to dial through a string to get to a group of people, and your call queue can ring through, and you can have agents and things like that. So Teams certainly can solve for that, but we also have third-party contact center providers or call recording or auto dialer type scenarios that can also work within Teams. And of course, I'd be remiss if I certainly didn't talk about video conferencing. Okay, we've got the Microsoft MTRs, Microsoft Teams rooms, and the ability to use cloud video interop, or CVI, to connect to those legacy infrastructures. So Teams can cover some of this, but let's remove some of this clutter and let's see what's left over.
Quite a bit left over.
Quite a bit. So let's talk about some of this, Diana. Pick one. Let's just pick one and start with that.
Should we start with fax, since we said sure. This is the one that comes up in every single conversation? Everybody, we believe it or not, people still need fax. Either HR departments, legal departments, some countries, they still have requirements for fax. So what do you do when you want to port your numbers to your new provider, but the fax number is right in the middle of that? You have to port your whole range. You have to do something with the fax, and you don't want to have to reprovision new analog lines and change all your collateral and all your business cards and everything because of the fax line. It's definitely something that can be done and can be fixed, either by converting your fax solution to a cloud solution, fax to email or email to fax, or if you have the requirement to still use your physical fax machine on site, you can use ATAs, or analog telephony adapters, to convert analog to SIP and get those faxes routed through a SIP platform, a centralized SIP platform. Here at PRIP, we can help with both solutions. So this is something we do every single day for our customers. So yeah, definitely an easy fix for the fax.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, because in order to do something like that in Teams, to make it native, we would want to use either, say, Operator Connect, which is a new feature that Microsoft has released where operators can have numbers just like our calling plans and make it look like it's seamless, or they could use direct routing or bring your own trunk. And the fact that these analog telephony adapters can connect directly to an SBC and then be part of your dial plan via that SBC, I think is amazing, because it makes, from a topology standpoint and from a user standpoint, it makes it feel more similar, right? My fax machine is still there. It's still got a number I have access to directly. And I feel like it's still part of our system and not something off in the corner that's analogous that I'm not aware of, or that doesn't feel like it's, integrated. So and the fact that you can mix any of those topologies, direct routing, operator connect, and calling plans together just helps round that out and bring all these things together. And our old friends, the analog phones, through either an analog telephony adapter or through maybe a standard old POTS line, right? Plain old telephone service. We can still have as part of our topology so that it can be dialed from a Teams client or through a phone number. Again, bringing that stuff back in. And then, we've got these tannoy or loudspeaker overhead paging systems. I hope I'm saying that right. How do we deal with this? I remember the days of having a page port on a phone system and maybe working with a Bogdan or a Viking system. But now, we fast forward where everybody's going IP. So, we've got companies like Algo that creates these door intercom faces, the ability for loudspeaker paging over IP and things like that, are going to need, and because these are SIP-based devices, are going to need some kind of a hook into Teams. And while we've all heard of the SIP gateway that's coming for Teams, it hasn't been, or at least as of this recording, hasn't been released generally available, or what we call GA. So we still need a solution that's gonna fit in all that. So Dana, can you talk a little bit about some of the solutions that are going to help pull all these things together?
For sure, and that's the beauty of using a provider or the same provider for your Teams integration, for your direct routing or your Operator Connect trunks, and the same provider for connecting this type of devices. The trick here is to have a platform neutral and flexible SBC that will allow one, connectivity to Teams from the same platform, and at the same time connectivity to all these devices using SIP registration. That partner, the operator, will act as a bridge between Teams and the devices on site. So here at PureIP, the way we handle this, as you said, Scott, we would deal with the dial plan. We will deal with that, bridging that communication between Teams and the analog devices on site. If a call originates from Teams and we recognize that is for a device that is registered on the same platform on our end, we'll just send that call down to the registered trunk or to the registered ATA, and it will reach the analog device on site. The opposite direction is exactly the same. This allows an easy integration between Teams and every other device you might have on site. Either if it's an IP device, bring your own device, as long as it's SIP capable and it supports SIP registration, it should work. And if it doesn't, and it's just an analog device, put an ATA in between and convert analog to SIP, and the functionality is exactly the same.
That's amazing. So it's really good to know, if I'm a customer, that I don't have to get rid of, or that I'm not going to be able to integrate this investment that I have in my buildings, and that I can still utilize some of this stuff using a third-party technology that is pretty much seamlessly integrated with Teams.
Yes, that is correct.
That's amazing. And of course, if we didn't talk about this, then this whole thing would be for naught, right?
Yes. So we learn from talking to customers and from customers telling us all these challenges that we've just mentioned. We learn what the pain points are. So we came up with this product called SIP Connect that we hope will solve or address some of these problems. What do customers want? They want to integrate their analog device or their devices on site with Microsoft Teams, to be able to dial between them, to integrate them in their dial plan. they want zero-touch provisioning. What I heard a lot from customers that have multiple offices with 1 or 2 analog devices there, I don't want to dedicate a public IP address for my analog device. I don't want to have to deal with firewall rules, open ports, manage that. And Scott, I know you probably had the same issues in your lab when you tested analog devices where you had to adjust your firewall and your router configuration. I want just get me a device, ship it to site, connect it, plug it in, and I want it to work. That's what customers want. And also, let me know if it stops working. Manage it, maintain it, monitor it for me. And that's what we're kind of trying to address with this product here. So zero-touch provisioning, we would send an ATA to site that would be pre-configured, or the moment it reaches site and it connects to the network, it will download the configuration, will call home and download the configuration, we'll monitor it and maintain it remotely. And you don't have to deal with any firewall configuration rules, because as long as that device can talk to the internet, we can reach it and we can manage and monitor it and configure it. So that's definitely something that customers asked us for, and we came up with this product just to help where help was needed. And using that product, the SIP Connect product, together with either, as you said, either Teams Direct Routing or Operator Connect, gives you that consolidation of services. One provider, one platform, one invoice. You don't have to deal with multiple vendors, maintain them all. And yeah, you have it all in one place.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that with me today. And I'm really glad to see that a partner such as Pure IP is investing so much in this and trying to get this integration so that our mutual customers are the ones that benefit from all this. I think this has been fantastic. So as we close it out here, any questions, send our way. Converse will know how to get in touch with us, I guess. And then, of course, if you're looking for those device integrations with Teams, give Diana a call over at Pure IP. Thanks, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you.